God of War Ragnarok is, in my opinion, a masterpiece, and it should win Game of the Year for 2022. It's been such a long time since I've really sunk my teeth into a game's story and became this invested in one, wanting to jump back into it and 100% it, even 40 hours into my playthrough. With God of War 2018 being a phenomenal reboot into the franchise, Ragnarok had a lot of expectation to live up to, and Santa Monica were under quite a serious amount of pressure to deliver that. With this being the final game based within Norse mythology as well, it was time for them to send these characters out and the end of the story out with a bang. God of War Ragnarok has some extremely tough competition for Game of the Year, with the likes of Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, Xenoblade, Stray and A Plague's Tale Requiem being in the list. However, God of War developers, like the other games on this list, have put a ridiculous amount of time, effort and resource into not just the story, the gameplay and the plot, but also those finer details and things that you come across, and those little plot twists that you find post-story. And the endgame of this game allows you to put maybe 60, 70, 80 hours in depending on difficulty, not including New Game Plus that should be coming soon. The different puzzles along the way, having different types of collectibles, crates, enemy types as well, bosses all with unique ways of fighting in which you the player have to learn yourself and master. 9 realms that you can visit throughout the story, and even a section you can go to in the end game that gives you another 15 to 20 hour side story which fills in some of the background lore, whilst in parallel featuring an absolutely fantastic storyline along with engaging and memorable characters and the crazy plot twists throughout. For me, God of War is a game that suits anyone, and that is why I would personally put it as Game of the Year. I personally think it's going to be a very, very tight battle between Elden Ring and God of War, but Elden Ring isn't to everybody's taste. It's a very frustrating game at times, although has a huge fan base. It's very frustrating for me anyway, it was, and I know a lot of you guys don't gel with it either. But a lot of you guys have found new love for Elden Ring and the Souls universe, and that's absolutely fine if you have. But God of War is a much more casual experience you can play to enjoy the story, play a game to put 70, 80, 90 hours into a game and find everything that you want to, do it on the hardest difficulty and then go back and play New Game Plus with all of your gear and then increase the difficulty again. Elden Ring was a massive step up and step forward in the Souls universe, but so was God of War Ragnarok. The other games on this list may have a lot of these other features too, with Elden Ring's sheer size, ability to explore at your own leisure, to Horizon Forbidden West's incredible graphics and storyline too. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below on what you guys think is going to be Game of the Year this year and what you think will win and what you voted for. Today I want to reflect on my 40+ hour playthrough and my 100%ing of God of War Ragnarok, what I loved about this game, which is a lot, and the sheer bang for your buck. Is it worth that $70 price tag? Now, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions. I personally look for more than just action and story during these video games, especially ones that are very heavily story orientated like God of War Ragnarok. But leave your comments down below and your thoughts and opinions on what you thought of God of War Ragnarok's storyline, gameplay, and generally what you thought of the game. Was it worth that $70 price tag? Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so be sure to be nice in the comments down below. But do consider subscribing to the channel, guys, if you are brand new. We're very close to our goal of 20,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so it'd be very much appreciated if you could help us get to that goal. We'll be doing a big giveaway if we do. But without further ado, let's dive in to why God of War Ragnarok should be Game of the Year for 2022. So, what makes a good video game story? A good story is something that makes the player feel invested in what's going on around them, and it makes you want for those characters to succeed in their end goal and ultimately defeat their impending threat, which they will typically face towards the end of that given story. The ability for that story to make you care for the choices that those characters make, the anger that you feel when something bad happens to them, and even just liking that character and relating to them in certain ways. Joel in The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2 are one of the best examples of building an early connection with a player and going on to becoming that one badass character that gets a second shot at fatherhood. He lost his daughter at the beginning of the outbreak, and ever since that point he'd never really been the same. The player really empathises with Joel from that point onwards, and it sets the scene as to why he is the way he is from the get-go. Then, later on in the story, he meets Ellie, and is left escorting her to the Fireflies in order to try and save the world. Throughout the gameplay we create this duo, this relationship between both of the characters, and they really develop a care for one another. That relationship doesn't just grow between them though, it also grows between us the player and those two characters, and it makes us really appreciate and care for them. We learn about their backstories, personal lives, and things that they like to do before the outbreak. Ellie loves comic books, arcade machines, and music, and Joel loves to play the guitar and spend time with his little girl. In order to establish that love for a character, you need to understand what they're like as a person, why they're like that, and the events leading up to that. What they want to do after all this blows over, or their aspirations in life, their family and their situation, their sacrifices they've had to make throughout their journey to get to this point in where they are today. However, some games just aren't as subtle in doing that. Other games like to use forced dialogue to tell you what these characters are like, rather than physically showing you, and this doesn't really give you that same affection towards the character and make you resonate with them as much. The Last of Us 2, for example, gives you flashbacks into Joel and Ellie's little off-tasks together, and them just having fun and bonding. The developers allow it so you can physically play and see firsthand these little tasks that they do together. They could have just simply told you this in a story or a cutscene, but it means so much more to the player if you're able to get control of that memory and live it alongside these characters. God of War Ragnarok does this throughout the entirety of its story without forcing it on the player, and this is what makes its story so engaging to me. It starts off with a cutscene of Kratos holding Faye's ashes around a campfire whilst Atreus is out hunting deer, which is a really interesting point to start off with Atreus and Kratos deer hunting in the first game, and now that Atreus is old enough to go off on his own and he's learned to hunt, he can now bring these deers back to Kratos without the need of his help. I thought this was a really interesting touch there. But this was an extremely powerful scene at the very beginning of the game. In the first game, we carried Faye's ashes with us all through the first game in this exact same bag, until we finally reached the highest peak in all the 9 realms within Jotunheim, and released Faye's ashes over the realm. It's so powerful because it really shows how much Faye meant to Kratos, and the fact that he's still carrying that very same empty bag around with him is a serious indication of that. This is the type of deep storytelling that really engages the player within the universe and gets you to really feel sorry, feel bad, and just really appreciate what this character is and how far he's came from that god killer in Greece up until where he is right now and how much he's really learnt. The developers did an absolutely fantastic job with gradually pushing towards this character arc with Kratos throughout the first game, not only battling with himself and his own past, but also learning how to bring up and care for his son, whilst also fulfilling his deceased wife's wishes and battling all the monsters and gods along the way. The story of God of War Ragnarok is aimed ultimately at ending the Norse mythology saga once and for all, with the end goal of course being Ragnarok, a mythological event aimed at ending the world and resetting the balance as we know it. The goal from the characters quickly became to defeat Odin, however to do so we needed to find the God of War Tyr. Odin had been spying on Atreus and found out that he'd be searching for Tyr across the shrines within Midgard in secret behind Kratos' back. We find that he's been kept prisoner by Odin in a mine somewhere, and some of the clues in the shrines gave us this information. And throughout that stage, we were trying our best to fulfill the prophecy and kill Odin during Ragnarok. Characters returned from previous games such as Faye, Mimir, Brock and Sindri, and of course Kratos and Atreus, but the developers also implemented a new set of characters into the story. None of these felt forced or added to serve a certain role. Each character had their own individual reason for being there, their backstories and lore were all really interesting, and they made sense. Even when some of the characters passed on, like the likes of Freya and even Brock. We develop a connection for them during the gameplay time and the 30 hours we played with them before the ending of the game. Personally for me, when they both did leave the story and pass on, it left a massive gap when going back to the end game and not seeing the likes of Brock and Sindri together and not seeing Freya with his sister. Even going to the likes of Alfheim and seeing that statue of him and how much they worshipped him there. Knowing why Freya and Freya had their relationship, knowing that Odin caused nothing but pain towards Freya, and it caused them both to split apart and go hundreds of years not seeing each other, thinking that each other were dead during this whole time. And then of course we have Brock's death. In my previous video, people actually mentioned that they could personally relate with this, with the relationship of Brock and Sindri being as strong as it was, with knowing Brock had originally died, and Sindri did everything that he could to try and save him. Look, if we were only told about Sindri saving Brock after Brock had died, it would probably take the immersion away from the fact that we knew that he wouldn't be able to be revived again. However, the fact that we knew already that this was Brock's final chance, and if he was to die then that's it again puts that bit of fear on the line. but you appreciated them constantly helping you out with the story. You appreciated them adding some form of comic relief into the story as well and breaking up that seriousness of the overall plot. Their back and forth witty banter between Brok and Sindri, and even between Kratos and Atreus, it was always a nice little breakup to have them and to see them, and that's when you know you're kind of in a bit of a safer spot and you can take a step back and chill out and relax. I mean, we even go to the extent of moving into Sindri's house for the entirety of the game, with Sindri starting off and being a clean freak, hating germs, cleaning the floor as soon as Atreus and Kratos walk in, to Brok being that no fucks given kind of guy that uses profanity in every single sentence. And then just going to when Brok dies. Difference with Sindri. His hate for germs just went out the window and he lost all care in the world, with him being completely covered in blood towards the end of the game at Brok's funeral, to even Brok telling Sindri that he kinda knew about his death at the end, but he was appreciative as what Sindri did for him, and that he wasn't mad in any way at all. Look, I could sit here talking about how the developers do an insanely good job with making these players love and appreciate and relate to these characters in their goals and wins, but also make you feel a sense of loss, anger and hatred when something impactful happens to them. Santa Monica did an absolutely fantastic job of writing this story, and for me, that is exactly how a story should be written and delivered, and that's why for me, this is the perfect ending to a masterpiece of a duology. God of War Ragnarok visually was absolutely stunning on the PlayStation 5. I literally cannot wait for this to eventually come to PC with an uncapped frame rate and 4K graphics, but how does the gameplay stack up to that of the previous game? And does it at any point become monotonous, boring or repetitive? Look, the game is 40 plus hours long, you are going to get some form of repetitiveness and it's just the nature of game development of course. Every encounter feels different. The way that the enemies come at you, the different abilities that you can use, and the way that you can kill an enemy varies massively every single time due to the amount in the sandbox that allows you to do that, with having 3 primary weapons, having the ability to hit them with a shield, block, also timed block and use 3 abilities, even have the likes of a supporting role of Freya, Atreus, or even Brok and Sindri. They've really given you a choice in combat to switch it up a little bit, and it really helps keep that freshness throughout. But let's put it into perspective here. The Callisto Protocol is a new game with the mechanics that seriously cause the player to have PTSD when playing. The combat mechanics and the controls are so bad that it made me want to stop playing the game 6 hours in due to just how repetitive it was. You have 3 different melee animations, the weapons are terrible to change during combat, and there's really no dodge mechanic that you need to master. You kind of just move left and right on the stick and then it kind of just does everything for you. However, God of War gives you so much more to strive for within its combat, but also upgrading the armor, the weapons, and the abilities throughout as well, and for your support partner too, whether that is Freya or whether that's Atreus. Rather than just leveling up your rank and then getting the respective credits to unlock something, this game actually wants you to grind for side quests, finish the main game, and the trials in Muspelheim, and unlock the specific resources in order to unlock and upgrade these different armor pieces and weapons. This game rewards you the longer you play. The more you grind and push for that 100% completion, the more you get out of this game. This gives the game huge replayability, which is an absolutely huge for a single player game which is open world. A lot of the time developers, they kind of just give you a little bit to replay. They don't give you this entire world that you can put 40 to 50, maybe even 60 hours into on those higher difficulties, which Ragnarok really treats the player there. Ragnarok gives you so much to do, so many surprises to find, like the real Tyr, like Thrud wielding the Mjolnir after the story's completed, Faye and Thor's fight as well, and even new hints and lore as to where the story may go next, with Tyr's animations after he's saved all meaning somewhere, and he's travelled the world somewhere. Will it be Japan? Will it be Egypt? Will it be China? Where will it be? Maybe even Celtic? We don't really know. Unlocking new lore throughout after the game is finished as well to fill in those gaps in the backstory. It's absolutely fantastic. However, let's just take a moment to appreciate the world that Santa Monica have built here because it's absolutely stunning, allowing us to visit all of the 9 realms within the gameplay, giving us probably around 100 different collectible items throughout as well, some providing new lore and stories, character bios and more, or others can be health or rage increases, and even secret artifacts hidden around the map that belong to the likes of Odin or some of the gods in those realms. Santa Monica even went to the extent of creating a brand new endgame area, which takes you upwards of 15 to 20 hours to actually fully 100%, even having its own storyline embedded within it. Or you can help Freya free her connection to Asgard by visiting the place her and Odin got married, and learning more about that and how it happened. This is the type of storytelling / open world gameplay that makes you and the story become one. You can easily sink 60 to 70 hours into this game and still find things to do and new things to play for. I personally played this game on the easiest difficulty to get it done fast for video purposes, but even then, I'm around 45 hours into my playthrough and I've just about 100%ed the game. This for me needs to be Game of the Year for this year. There are other games like Elden Ring which would be a very good contender and I can imagine will be very, very strong in that department. But this game for me is worth every single penny that you pay for it, even the special edition. The amount of hours that you can get stuck into this game, and even just to take you away from reality for a couple of hours and dive into this story and lore, and the jigsaw of a backstory which the developers let you, the player, put together yourself. I personally really love this. God of War Ragnarok is a masterpiece, and I cannot wait to see what Santa Monica have up their sleeves for the very next game. But that is my very brief explanation on why I believe this game should be a masterpiece. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down below, guys, as to what you think of God of War Ragnarok. It launched with very little issues, it looks absolutely stunning in the way that it is, and the lore and the backstory is so fascinating. And yeah, for me, it's absolutely brilliant. But leave a like if you guys have enjoyed, subscribe if you guys are brand new as well, be very much appreciated. And if we can hit 20,000 subscribers before the end of the year, then there'll be a giveaway on the channel, so be sure to look out for that. But we'll see you all in the very next video.